Hello and welcome to this AGUSTO&Co Kenya webinar session. In this session, we'll discuss the need for counties in Kenya to embrace the debt capital markets for infrastructure development financing. Please join me as we begin. AGUSTO&Co notes that the continuous spread of the coronavirus has placed significant pressure on the government of Kenya's finances, which would ultimately limit near-term funds available for infrastructure development projects across the 47 counties. AGUSTO&Co further opines that the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic has upended Kenya's outlook for 2020, with its attendant decline in the national government's receipts from agricultural exports, foreign remittances, and tourist activities, owing to the plight of the virus. As the Kenyan government contends with worsening debt service to revenue and budget deficit to GDP ratios, AGUSTO&Co expects a significant reduction in the total equitable share of revenue to Kenyan counties, which is typically a percentage of the national revenue in the near to medium term. Consequently, counties must begin to look elsewhere for other financing options to meet ongoing and future capital projects. Following the devolution of the government of Kenya on the back of the 2010 constitution, county governors now have greater autonomy in shaping the future of their counties due to unbridled access to a large pool of funding opportunities. Also, the new political and economic governance system has placed strengthening the financial discipline and accountability of the counties in the hands of the county governors. According to the Kenya's National Treasury, a total of 1.5 trillion Kenya shillings has been allocated to the 47 county governments from the 2013-2014 fiscal year up to the 2018-2019 fiscal year as equitable share transfer, with 310 billion Kenya shillings estimated for the 2019-2020 fiscal year under the following parameters and weights: population 45%, poverty index 18%, land area 8%, basic equal share 26%, fiscal responsibility 2%, development factor 1%. These monthly equitable transfers, coupled with grants and other internally generated receipts by county governments, remained largely inadequate to cover recurrent expenditure, let alone infrastructure development. According to the World Bank, Kenya has an infrastructure financing deficit estimated at $2.1 billion annually, which obviously cannot be met from public resources, given the country's rising public debt to GDP ratio estimated at 60% and poised to rise to about 65% by the end of 2020. Thus, counties need to begin to mobilize finance from the private sector and in local currency to fund infrastructural needs if they must meet the aspiration of their people. Other funding options available to the 47 counties, aside the equitable share transfer from the national government and low internally generated revenue, includes public-private partnerships strongly promoted by the World Bank, grants and aids from development finance institutions, local commercial bank financing, and now access to the debt capital markets locally and internationally. AGUSTO&Co notes that the common prerequisites for financing for subnational governments, which includes ability to demonstrate financial discipline, transparency, accountability, good cash generating capacity, autonomy in decision making, existence of governing laws, and importantly, the use of the funds, are key features that most counties in Kenya now possesses due to the devolution of the government. Furthermore, AGUSTO&Co believes that counties in Kenya must begin to assess the option of raising long-term finance from domestic debt capital markets in the form of bonds or notes to fund infrastructure development projects, which would inevitably attract more investments and lead to higher internally generated revenue if properly utilized. These sources of financing have been successfully used by many subnational governments in Nigeria to secure long-term funding, typically above 7 years, in the form of bonds for specific infrastructure development by pledging a portion of the monthly centrally distributed income, similar to the monthly equitable share transfer for counties, and or a portion of the internally generated revenues, similar to the local receipts from levies, fines, licenses by counties. In addition, AGUSTO&Co believes this approach of capital market financing is sustainable in the long run and will make counties economically viable, financially disciplined, and accountable to their citizens. However, it requires greater collaboration among critical stakeholders, such as the Ministry of Devolution and Arid and Semi-Arid Lands, the Commission on Revenue Allocation, the CRA, the National Treasury, the Retirement Benefits Authority, the RBA, the Nairobi Securities Exchange, the NSC, the Capital Markets Authority, the CMA, and other capital market operators to design a framework for counties to assess this ready pool of investable long-term funds for critical capital expenditure. Here is AGUSTO&Co's experience in subnational government financing. Since 2009, AGUSTO&Co has assigned credit ratings to over 23 subnational governments in Nigeria, and collectively, they raised in excess of $3 billion from the debt capital markets in sub-Saharan Africa in the form of bonds and tenured Islamic-related products for specific infrastructure development projects. The major investors in these asset classes are pension funds with long-term pool of funds, commercial banks with huge investable pool of funds, insurance companies, and foreign portfolio investors seeking long-term fixed returns and investment outlets across Africa. Here is a review of selected subnational government issuances. In January 2020, the Lagos State government raised about $278 million for infrastructure development from the debt capital markets with semi-annual repayments spread over a 10-year period, and the issuer was assigned an A+ rating while the bond was rated AA-. Prior to this, the Lagos State government had in 2017 raised about $319 million in 4 tranches of varying maturities of 7 to 10 years, and the proceeds is being used for infrastructure development across the states. Another subnational government in Nigeria, the state government of Osun, issued a Sukuk Alijara of $38 million in 2013 for construction of schools with repayment spread quarterly over a 7-year period. The state has a rating of B+, while the bond is rated BBB-. Similarly, the Plateau State government in Nigeria issued bonds worth $94 million in 2015 to refinance existing commercial bank loans, which were used to fund capital development projects repayable over a 7-year period. This bond was subsequently restructured in 2019 for additional 3 years, bringing the total maturity period to 10 years. The state has a rating of B, while the bond is rated BBB. Given Kenya's role as a leading business hub within the East African community, as well as its well-diversified economy, AGUSTO&Co believes that counties can leverage improving fiscal responsibility towards transparency, accountability, and financial discipline, as well as strong capital market regulations and alliances to access funding from the capital markets. This will definitely support the government of Kenya's infrastructure development initiatives and positively impact the lives of the citizens at the grassroots post-COVID-19 era. Please let us have your comments on this webinar session on the need for counties in Kenya to embrace the debt capital markets for infrastructure development finance by sending an email to info@agusto.co.ke. We look forward to you joining us on our subsequent AGUSTO&Co Kenya webinar sessions. Thank you for listening.